chaotic now that they can both move around.
Yeah, dude.
But
That's how it is.
we're working on it, working through it.
I feel you, dude. Andrew, what's going on with you, man?
We have started solids. We're running up on 5 months. 5 months tomorrow. No. 5 months tomorrow? 6 months tomorrow. For our youngest. I don't know. I'd have to do the math. But just started like the formula mixed multi-grain Gerber puree where it's like really thin oatmeal. So she's working on the whole swallowing thing. So every time we've done that, it's been a mess because it's like half goes in, half comes out. You know, dad's wiping with the spoon.
Yep.
Other than that, oldest one's doing great. She's running around. We're working on actually saying words instead of just
Yeah.
That's like, and
The shouting point.
yeah, well, she's got really good at yes and no. She shakes her head, and she knows how to say no. She knows dad, which upsets my wife because she has dad and Argos, which is the dog.
Argos.
But she will not.
yeah.
She goes Ago.
Nice.
But she will not say mom, which is a little
That's funny.
tumultuous
Tough
in
one.
our household. I don't know.
It's a tough one.
Yeah, so that's going good. She's actually finally starting to interact with I have an 80-pound German Shepherd, and for the longest time she was just afraid of him. And they are finally to the point where he will pick up a Troy and she'll run and grab it from him and pull it away. And he's nice enough, he'll let her have it, but he's not happy about it. And so then he goes and steals it from her, and they'll play at least. So again, fun developmental stages of youth, right? Yeah. The other day she decided the little dog, we have it's not a cockapoo. It's no, it is a cockapoo. Cocker Spaniel Poodle. Yeah. We have a cockapoo, and she decided it needed a bedtime kiss. And so she sat there with like, until it licked her. So, fun. We're doing fun little stuff
dogs,
like that.
Kids and dogs.
Since they're both under 2, I don't have the whole back to school thing starting yet. Right.
Yeah. We're going to dive into that soon. Yeah. Gosh, it's a mess. Yo, dude, it's funny that you say about the, saying dad but not mama, because our daughter, she's the complete opposite. She'll say is mama, baba, all that stuff, but she's capable of saying a lot of words. She just likes being stubborn, and it's a game for her where I'll say, can you say mama? And she'll say mama, and then I say, can you say dada? And she'll just look at me and smile and shake her head and say nah. And then it becomes like, well, can you say anything? Can you say like Mimi, like her grandma's called Mimi? Can you say Mimi? Nah. And so it's like, it becomes like too much of a game for like, no, I know how to say it. I'm not gonna give you that satisfaction.
Yeah, ours says choo choo when the train goes by the house.
There you go.
Which is cool, but if you prompt her, she won't say it.
Yeah,
like she'll look and point and go choo choo, and then you're like, what do you do? What's a train say? And she's like, no, not saying it. I'm not doing it. Like, so that's entertaining. But
I got super excited the other day because our daughter has. I am convinced that she is intermittently saying dada. So I walk away now, and now she's kind of like associating it with me a little bit. So like at 6 months, like if I walk away from her playpen, I'll hear da 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 like as I leave.
Oh, that's awesome.
And so like I'm convinced that she knows who I am and that she's saying my name. My wife is not so convinced yet that she's actually saying anything like consciously saying dad or anything like that. She's like, you just taught her to make a sound, and she's just making a sound because it's fun. I was like, you just, you're upset.
Well, then you need to teach her how to go ma,
like,
ma, ma.
I've been trying secretly on the side. I'm like, all right, both of our kids said dad first.
Really?
I'm like, your mother went through so much to like get you out. And I'm the first person, like the first word you're going to say is mine.
Yeah, that's the dude.
My buddy actually spent significant amount of times with both of his kids so that their first word was mama.
Really?
Like all he did, he'd hold them and mama, like he nailed it in there, and both of them, the first words were mama.
You guys have that Jimmy Fallon book? Because Jimmy Fallon had the opposite problem, so he wrote that book called Dad Dad, like everything is Dad Dad, to try to get his kids to start saying Dad Dad. And then he followed it up with a Mama book. But yeah, the whole thing is just trying to get him to say that first word. But yeah, man. Well, Okay, so before we kind of I catch up on my end and kind of segue into that first big topic of back to school and all that stuff, I quickly just wanted to talk about just this podcast, right? And it's I guess infrequency, lack of scheduling proper. It's because it's
consistency.
It's managed,
the word you're looking for is consistency.
That's the word. That's how to English properly. Okay, that's how you English right. It's consistency, and it's because it's managed by me. And I suck at the consistency thing. I'm good at it for Instagram posts, but making a podcast, that's new to me. It's not, it's like low on the totem pole, I guess you could say, but I know it's important. And that's why I've really enlisted the help of Andrew and Ben here to really kind of like grab this thing and say like, no, every week here, we're doing this. We're doing this. So like right now, had to really summon the strength here to figure out how to get on the camera and freaking start hopping on here when I'm sick and I'm like dead. I'm like, no. We got to stay consistent. We got to stay consistent. And I hope to apply this to working out because it's just not happening. It's just not happening. So
that's how everyone's fitness goals go.
Yep. Yeah. So we are recording on a Sunday evening. Our plan as a group here is to record Sunday evenings. It's kind of our night. And then release these a couple of days after. I believe it was, the next day, Monday or Tuesday.
No, we're gonna take Monday to get everything in order.
Yep,
and then we should have them scheduled for release Tuesday morning. 6 a.m. was our plan, so that we could hit those East Coast morning commuters.
There it is. So that is the plan, and we're gonna try to stick to it. We also have we've been brainstorming on our end. Different guests that we can have, whether that's different SMEs, subject matter experts, different people with large followings in different areas, even guys in our community, in our dad community that have expressed interest in joining on the podcast and chatting. So we plan on getting active dads onto the podcast to start chatting about just different things that we feel like might be great to help the community. And we're going to do this on a consistent basis. So that's the plan moving forward. We apologize for the what's the word that you use? What's the big English word that you use?
Inconsistency. I'm sorry, it's polysyllabic. My bad. It's not who let the dogs out.
So it's a lot for me to grasp right now, guys. But
that's all he could do to sit down in front of the camera and press record.
He's on a lot of Dayquil right now. Just let it go.
Literally, a lot of antibiotics, everything. So anyway, that's the plan, guys. So thank you guys for those who have continued to express interest in this podcast. I mean, it's not like the biggest podcast in the world, but like it's people who listen, a few hundred people every week who listen, and I'm just like, wow, oh, cool. Yeah.
It's been really cool to see the growth. I mean, just to see it, from start to now. I mean, we're still in the double digits of episodes, right? Like I don't think we've hit even like our 20th episode at this point.
I think this is episode 18 or 19.
Yeah, so we're getting close to that 20th episode, and to see the steady growth and like see the questions come in, see the content happening in the Discord, and the community continue to build, I think is really exciting, and hopefully bringing more consistency, bringing some outside voices in to talk about the topic of parenting and fatherhood is going to be, even more valuable to the people who do listen.
Absolutely.
And for those of you who are members of the Discord, don't hesitate to reach out to myself or Ben if you have something you want us to talk about. We're going to monitor that podcast content, Dad Verb content channel pretty closely. And then anybody in the Dad Verb Discord should be able to instant or private message me if you want to talk, you think you'd be a good guest. Yeah. I'll be available to take those requests, and we'll create a schedule and get people on as best we can. So
and for those who, just in case you don't already know, on our Discord, Andrew is the other Andrew. That's Andrew Saunders.
That's true. The other Andrew.
Yeah, I'm Andrew Dad Verb on the Discord. Prince Bougie is another one of our mods who he doesn't know this yet, but we are probably gonna try to get him on the podcast soon. So yeah, there we go. That's kind of the update with our podcast moving forward. Anyway, let's move on to the first topic that we have on here. And that's going to be back to school season and health. Okay. I have been sick consistently for the last 4 weeks. I don't know if it's all one big long thing, which just speaks to how terrible my immune system is, but it has been horrible. I have been dealing with just what feels like colds, right? Tested negative for COVID. I can't breathe. I've been coughing for nonstop. I'm on a mixture of prednisone and everything. It sucks. But we got done traveling, caught something. But what really kicked it off was when kids went to school, and then they came home and they started coughing and they brought back something, and then I caught whatever that was. And knowing me, it's funny too, because I caught it, like kids got it, and then I got it first. My wife really started to get it like 2 days after me. She's already better. I'm still continuing. So that just speaks to like how my immune system is horrific. She literally battles things so much faster than I do. But I've just been like horrible. I've just been nonstop sick. And unfortunately, we're in school season. Majority of the guys who are listening to this, these guys on the podcast with me, they're not quite there yet at that kind of school daycare situation yet. But for those who are there, gosh, man, it is truly like you see memes about this. Like when school season kicks off, they just get sick. And it's like literally every 2 to 3 weeks, there's just something new. And then like our Henry will come home and he'll be like, like Rom threw up. I'm like, what the okay. Yep. You didn't have to tell me that part, but like now I'm scared that you're going to come home with a stomach virus. And
as soon as you hear that a kid threw up in your kid's class, you're like, you just immediately know.
Dude. And
and they're the worst.
I have a fear of the whole throwing up thing because when I was a kid, I was in first grade, and I remember I was in a lunchroom, and a kid that was sitting in the at lunch behind me, he turned around, faced me, and then projectile vomited all over my back. No. Yeah, and then
so you're reliving trauma.
You're traumatized.
Like your kids are sick.
Yes. And then so that was like, and all through elementary school, just kids were throwing up, right? And in 5th grade, I moved to Puerto Rico. And in Puerto Rico, it was like the school was different, right? It was on a tropical island. And a majority of the school was like outdoors. Like it was almost like strung together by a bunch of trailers, basically. But it was a lot of outdoor, like there weren't like indoor hallways. It was like the whole school was like outdoors, right? And I just vividly remember piles of puke on like the grass and the sidewalks, and I was just like, kids were just like throwing up all the time. And I remember I caught a bug once, and I was one of the kids that left a pile. But I have a fear I'd be the worst bulimic ever. Like I have such a fear of throwing up. My kids are in that age right now. They're bringing home all these sicknesses. I'm sick right now, and it's just a very, very tough period. It's a tough part of parenting, especially when you have
this is your life now.
Yeah,
Did you have like elementary school flashbacks when you were in your 20s going clubbing because you just walked down the street and there'd be a pile?
Gosh, dude, I lived in New York. And I saw a lot of
there you go,
drunken vomit situations. I remember this guy. He was like vomiting to me is like pure shutdown mode. Like you can never like I don't know. I remember a guy.
There's no such thing as a puke and rally for me.
Dude,
it doesn't exist.
Dude, I saw some just absolute champions when I was living in New York. It'd be 1 a.m., right? I'm like walking around like Union Square or whatever. And I remember this one guy, he was on his phone and he's like stumbling around. He's like talking to some guy. And all of a sudden he goes, hold up. And he pulls the phone away and he just pukes, and it's all liquid. There's like no chunks.
He's just evacuating the alcohol.
Yeah.
Just get it all out.
Just fires it all out. Just pure, just grumpy, just all over the place. And then he just like finishes. He gets a spit or two out, puts the phone back to his ear. And he's like, all right, so what were you saying? And he just kept on going. I was like, what the hell? Like I'm just not like that. Like if I'm throwing up, I'm done.
I'm not built that way. I'm going home.
Yeah,
I'm going home.
There's some dive bar guys who are just can rally. They keep going. That's just not me.
I tell you what, the worst one I ever did was the boot camp tear gas. Tear gas makes you vomit for some people. Like if you're not aware, that's one of the like. Not only do you cry and your nose starts draining, but one of the things that'll happen is most people will throw up. And at the very least, you get like all the mucus from your lungs coming out. Anyway, excellent conversation topic, by the way. But you have to stand there And usually you have to perform a task, like say your name or whatever, right? And you got to wait till everybody in line does their thing. And then you get to leave and you go out in the fresh air. And then you basically just have to like get over it, because there is no washing it off. There's no, like, you have to let it calm down, dry out, and then you can slowly clean the crystals off later, right? So,
that's horrible.
Yeah, basically you all stand in line. Like half the people basically snot and vomit in this cement gas cage.
Yeah.
And then you walk outside and they're still going.
Yeah.
Like,
no, I actually seen the YouTube. Wait, didn't they do this on Jackass at one point?
Jackass did one, but I don't think they did the boot camp one. But I think there's somebody did a thing of boot camp and you can actually go watch.
Yeah.
And like a bunch of sailors
spray.
Ours was a little, this was weird. It was a gel cap that they put on a hot plate. Like this dude took a gel cap, placed it on a hot plate, and everybody in the room within about 10 seconds was like, "Oh god."
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Ooh.
Yeah. Like this idea of it being a canister they throw in somewhere.
Yeah.
I'm sure those exist. Ours was like, he seriously put it on a hot plate like you'd see in a chemistry class. And away we went. Yeah.
Man.
Anyway.
Well, so but for back to, sorry, and I apologize for the coughing, because like I mentioned, sick with all of the things right now. I'm hopefully getting better here. But for you guys aren't yet in the back to school daycare phase, are you?
I'm in daycare.
Okay,
well, I am not personally in daycare, but my
you don't go to daycare? You don't get snacks?
Right? Yeah, my job unfortunately doesn't qualify as daycare.
Oh, okay.
Do they provide snacks and a nap area?
You don't get Capri Sun in the orange
like
slices?
Google just sounds like adult daycare to me.
It really does.
Free snacks, napping area. Like
no, I don't get any of that stuff.
So okay, so you do
we are
have
in daycare. Yep.
Okay,
so we're about to start our second in daycare too.
But daycare's year round.
Yep.
So okay, so it's not technically back to school, but when daycare first kind of started and you kind of actually the multi-faceted thing, I want to talk about the pricing for daycare as well. Because that, I feel like, at least in our area, it's like a second mortgage, dude. I know a guy who's paying more for daycare than his actual mortgage. He's paying $2,100 a month for his mortgage and $2,600 for his daycare.
Yeah.
But we'll get to that in a second. Let's talk about sicknesses and how you've kind of dealt with that in your experience with daycare.
Yeah, so our oldest has been in daycare since he was about 6 months old. Started in the baby room, and so now he's 3. Like he just turned 3 in August. So he's been in daycare for quite a while. It is, I mean, as much as they try, I think that, they have protocols in place where they clean the rooms, especially the baby rooms, the infant rooms, like they clean them all the time. Yeah. A lot of the people taking care of them are like wearing masks, and they're wearing like foot covers, and like the place that we go to now, they actually change into scrubs when they get to work. So not necessarily with the older rooms, but in the baby rooms especially, like they change into scrubs to make sure the babies stay as healthy as possible. But even with that, like our experience with daycare is just and if you guys aren't in daycare yet, basically for the first 2 years, your kid is pretty much constantly sick. Just because so many kids are coming from other homes, they have older siblings, whatever it is, somebody is carrying something in. So I remember like our son got RSV for the first time when he was 8 months old. Super scary, to have a respiratory virus for an 8-month-old. He's had like RSV, he's had COVID, he's had the flu, he's had hand, foot, and mouth. He's had a number of stomach viruses, which have been conveniently passed on to myself and my wife. And basically what we came to the conclusion of is that if your kid is around other kids, they're going to get sick. Yep. Their immune systems don't work very well. They haven't been exposed to very much. This is the time where they're building up that immunity. Yep. And in a daycare setting, they're all touching everything. And so no matter what the teachers do, no matter how thoroughly they clean, there's always going to be cross-contamination of some sort, which means as soon as one kid has it, basically the entire class is going to have, especially when it comes to stomach viruses. Like those are... Because many of these, it's like the kids don't show symptoms until like they won't show symptoms while they're contagious.
Right.
So for the first 3-4 days, they might be going to school and they've got a little bit of a runny nose. Like that could be teething. It could be any number of things. So like you're not going to keep them home if they don't have a fever. Like I've got to go to work, which means my kid needs to go to daycare. And so, your kid might be contagious and giving this off for 3 or 4 days. And then all of a sudden the whole class starts coming down with it and they have to shut down a whole room and all kinds of stuff.
Yep.
So it's definitely a challenge, but our son, I think, has, for the most part, I think, come through kind of the worst of it now that he's in the 3-year-old phase. Like now he doesn't get sick nearly as much as he did. But yeah, when he was young, it was, every 2 to 3 weeks, we had some sort of serious illness going either just to him or through our whole house.
Dude. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. That was, when our kids first started pre-K, and even like in Henry starting kindergarten, now he's starting first grade, it's the same thing. Like the summer is just, and I guess just like specifically like rhinovirus, all that stuff is just not as prevalent during the summertime. I don't know if it's the heat or whatever, but then school season starts up. They're just all touching the same things, licking the same things, doing just, and then just bring home everything. And and some people deal with sicknesses well. Like my mother-in-law, she's never sick for more than a day. It's fine. I know my body and how it works. It is always a full week minimum, and then it's something triggers my asthma, and then I have like super chest congestion. I can't breathe. So it's like, and it's like this cycle. And you would think that they like build up some sort of immunity or something, but they don't. They just get it over and over and over again, and that's just how it is, though. It is what it is. Like you just kind of deal with it and you roll with it. But what sucks is when you have it and you still, and we've talked about this in the past, you still have to like keep up with them because they don't let up, right? They don't have any empathy toward you being sick. It's like, no, like you could be face down into the toilet, just hurling your guts out. You're going to get a tap on your shoulder and you're like, yo, can I get goldfish? I'm like, no, I can't right now. Like, no.
I want some
You're going to have to give me a minute.
I need applesauce right now after you're done.
The thing they don't really tell you is like, you don't get to quit parenting when you're sick.
No,
like, you just don't. Like you still have to keep going.
Yep.
Even when you feel like you're, dying a little bit. Like I remember with my wife and we caught I think it was a norovirus or it was a stomach flu basically.
Yeah.
And so my son had it. And then it was like all he wanted to do was cuddle with my wife. So like I knew she was going to get it. Like no matter what, we knew she was going to get it. So then she got it and everybody was sick. And I was like, okay, like this is now like 2 days later. I'm like, I think I'm all right. Like I think I made it through. Did not make it through.
Yeah.
It was a false hope. I thought I was okay. And then like 2 days after, as they were kind of on the mend, it hit me. And we just all were down for the count for like 3-4 days. Couldn't eat anything, couldn't keep any liquids down. And that's it just is what it is. And again, you can't stop parenting. Like he still needs to be taken care of. We still had to like schedule doctor's appointments for him to get taken care of. We had to make sure he could eat and get enough fluids and this, that, and the other, while we're also trying to do the same thing for ourselves and have no energy because you have no food in your body.
Yep. Prince Bougie on our Discord, August 20th, he goes, kid is sick again with a cold and ear infection after 15 months of this. You would think that he would get used to it. However, the anxiety is still the same. LOL. So yeah, like he just echoed what we just talked about. 4 days later, my kid got over the cold and his daycare just sent me an email saying someone has hand, foot, and mouth. I'm like, damn. So it's just like, everything we just talked about, again, on our Discord, he posted that on the 20th of August and the 24th of August, so 4 days apart.
Yeah.
And it's just like something happens, you get over it, get hit with another thing. It's just, I don't know, that's just a vicious cycle that we live in, man.
Like I find amazing. So we're big proponents of our kids need to play with other kids so that they do get sick and they do build these immunities because we're not doing daycare, right?
Yeah.
But I don't know. There must be you need a certain level of dosage. Like you have to play with sick kids for 8 hours at a time or something because my buddy's got 7 kids and we're over there once a week. His kids touch, play, interact, whatever. They're 17 to 3.
Yeah.
I think 3. And we have managed, knock on wood, to stay fairly free. We got a couple head colds, but no major incidents. And it actually occurred to me that like you're not supposed to have your under 6 months old around kids because pertussis, right? And that was one of the things that's like, oh yeah, I just realized that was, I should make that a thing. I need to remember those things in my life while I'm dragging this 5-month-old around. She's gonna be 6 months tomorrow.
Just hard, like the reality of trying to shield them from that, though, is just like damn near impossible. You know,
especially if they have a sibling too. Like our son's at daycare. He brings things home, and so like our son was born during COVID. So like when we did labor and delivery, it was you could not have any visitors. You could not, no one could come see you. There was a limited number of people who would go in and out of your room. Everybody was masked all the time, and so there was. I feel like things felt different at that point, but it was like if we made it through that, then sort of the next round of things was like daycare, right? Like so we're so worried about getting that, but then you come home with colds, you come home with stomach viruses, hand, foot, and mouth, which by the way, Prince Bougie, if your kid gets that, I feel for you, because that hand, foot, and mouth is brutal. That was by far, I think, one of the hand, foot, mouth, and RSV, I think, were the 2 worst. I really don't want to say this. I think I would take a stomach virus over either of those.
Oh, hell no.
I really think I would.
No.
Because, like, a stomach virus, I'm sick, and I'm, like, done in a couple days.
Like 24 hours?
RSV, RSV, it's like... It's because RSV is scary. Because, like, RSV, for us...
We dealt with it. Yeah.
For us, like, I think that's what led to our son has, like... basically like childhood asthma, like very mild asthma. We think it's because he got RSV so young.
Oh.
But I remember like sitting and talking about how to deal with it, right? Like I remember one of the suggestions from the pediatrician was like, we can give him an inhaler, we can do all these things. But if he's having trouble breathing, because you'll see them like belly breathe instead of being able to breathe through their chest.
Yeah.
Like one of the things, they'll get these bouts of basically asthma more or less.
Yeah.
And they're like, if it's in the wintertime and they're having these coughing fits where they can't breathe, the best thing you can do is like, by the time you get to the ER, it's probably going to be over. So either take them and sit them in front of the freezer or take them outside if it's cold. And so I remember like hearing my son like struggling to breathe at like 3:00 in the morning and literally like scooping him out of his bed, sitting outside in my garage on the concrete floor with the freezer door open with my back in the freezer and him sleeping on my shoulder, and I'm sitting there like in my boxers with my kid on my shoulder.
What, dude?
You're getting
he's
pneumonia.
Just like, I'm literally like sitting inside a freezer, but I knew that like he could breathe and he was okay. And so like it's those situations where you just deal with it as it comes. And now it's like kind of a funny, scary story, but like at the time, like those things are super scary, but you just figure out what you need to do and you just make it happen.
I think that the toughest part, especially when you're dealing with kids that are like under 2, is that you can't give them anything. Like, I mean, like not even to like help them alleviate their symptoms. There's no like Dayquil and I remember like the first few times, like our kids really got sick and you try to go to like some pharmacy or try to get some sort of over-the-counter medication, and you're just like, none of this is. It's always like consult your doctor if it under 2, or even under 4, like up to 4. It's like there's like no medicine that's like safe to give them other than like maybe Tylenol, like dye-free Tylenol. Like other than that, it's like, damn, like we can't give them anything, and you just have to basically sit there and watch your kids suffer, which is one of the most excruciating parts that I did not talk about earlier. Talk about like how it's tough for them to get sick, tough for us to get sick, very selfishly. But the reality is watching your kids get sick and not being able to give them anything for it, that's what really sucks, man. That's what really sucks. So
we had to take at the time she was 36 hours old. So our youngest, I don't want to say she stopped breathing, but she got to the point at 36 hours. We had just gotten home, first night at sleep, where she was doing that, like, gagging on her own spit, couldn't, like, she was just wheezing, for lack of a better term. She was wheezing, and by the time we got to the ER, I'm like, I have a 36-hour-old baby that's wheezing. They sat us in the waiting room for 30 minutes. And I'm looking at the nurse, and she's doing like, I was livid. I refused to go back to the CR.
Yeah, usually like with breathing, they
usually
I walk in with a complaint that a 36-hour-old kid is not breathing well, and she proceeds to weigh, test, and do everything else for this family who had what do you call it? Just basically COVID symptoms. They didn't have COVID, but they were COVID symptoms. The whole family, and they were 6 through 40, right? And we're sitting there for half an hour, and I'm like, thank God my kid is like, I can hear my kid breathing, and she's fine. But I was amazed at the lack of responsiveness. So that's the only thing that drives me up a wall is like, there is a point at which it's an emergency in my head.
Yeah.
And other people need to respond appropriately. And if they're not, I'm getting very angry very quickly.
Yeah. I mean,
that's hard to deal with.
It's just some providers are just dismissive, like, because that's just, I don't know, it's just stupid. But like for a 36-hour old, that's a fresh baby. I don't know. I feel like as anyone, as a human,
pretty much all of that constitutes an emergency. And that's
I was pissed.
And that's the hard part, right?
That nurse was not my favorite person in the world. The pediatrician showed up almost immediately when we got into the room. It was like, okay, what's going on? I'm like, she's been wheezing for half an hour. Like, and they plugged her right up, and they're like, she's fine. She's breathing. It's not there's nothing going on. We're going to do an x-ray just to make sure. But it's still like, to wait a half an hour, I was pissed.
You know, it's
funny. I left my car in the emergency thing the whole time. I was like, nope, forget this. If you're not going to help me, my car is sitting right in front of the emergency doors. Like, I'm not even going to do that right
Scott
thing.
And just throw the keys out into the parking lot.
Yeah, exactly.
So, having reviewed a ton of these smart baby monitors and stuff like that, that could track breathing and all that stuff, like, I've gotten a range of parents who are like, this is the greatest invention ever, and others who are like, you don't need that bullshit, you know, all that. You know, I've gotten both sides of it, but I will, and I guess I've kind of softened on like, you need smart monitors. I think they're really cool, but like, no, I think you do fine with just a good old non-connected baby monitor. But in those moments where our kids were sick, it was really nice having an Owlet sock or Miku or Nanit to have some way to keep an eye on things when they had like bad colds, bad respiratory, RSV, like you're talking about. Like
we were so thankful for it when we had RSV.
Dude, it was really nice at the time, because I'm always cycling through different monitors. It was really nice at the time we were using Owlet, full-on sock, tracking vitals and the blood saturation, the oxygen levels and all that. It was it was actually really nice to be able to check on the phone, like, are she still breathing? Because when your kid is sick for 7 days and you just want to make sure they're good when they're sleeping, that's when I feel like those things really deliver in value. Which it wasn't on our agenda, but Ben, do we quickly want to talk about what's going on with Miku real quick?
Yeah. So
I got 2 of them.
Let's give a quick 2-minute rundown about the email that they sent a few days ago, and then the email that they just sent on Friday. And for this is for anyone who's listening, we're just gonna do a quick rundown because it might not be relevant to everyone. There's a smart monitor brand called Miku. They're one of my most recommended. They kind of are in that premium tier of monitors with Nanit, Owlet, but they're in a little bit of financial trouble. They just filed for bankruptcy. Ben, do you just want to kind of give a quick rundown as to what's going on?
Yeah. So I put together like 2 quick videos on this on my Instagram just because I thought it was super important, because like you, Andrew, I mean, this is one of the most, it's the one that we use. It's the one we recommend to pretty much everybody who's having a kid. And so they sent out 2 emails. So the first one came on August, I think it was 25th or something like that. But they had sent out a letter to their customers stating that they were filing for bankruptcy. There was a number of letters in kind of a Google Drive area that their customers could access, but one of them was talking about the potential sale of the company, the bankruptcy proceedings, and kind of what was happening with the organization. And then the second piece they were talking about was so one of the big benefits of the Miku monitor is that there is a monthly subscription fee that you can get for I think it's called Care Plus. I think it's like $15 a month. But the base monitor, which is on sale, I think like $400. Like it's very expensive.
I think it retails at $399.
Yeah, like it's pretty expensive. The monitor itself, without a subscription, you get as Andrew said, the live breathing, you get two-way audio and two-way talk, you get like lullabies and stuff you can put in it. There's all kinds of features that you get just because it's a premium monitor. And so because the company appears to be in some financial straits, they had asked the bankruptcy court if they could implement a $9.99 a month subscription fee to access all of the core features of the Miku. So all of the stuff that you get for free that you're paying this $400 for with this monitor that has been, that we've used for the last 3 years since our son was born, would now cost you an additional $10 a month. And if you didn't pay that $10 a month, all you would get was live audio and video. No two-way talk, no music, no live breathing, no anything basically. So it basically becomes a very expensive Google like Nest camera.
Yeah.
And so then I made a quick video about that, and then 2 days later, they sent another email to their customers which said, well, turns out we're not going to be pursuing this $9.99 a month subscription fee. Basically, you can ignore this. We're going to proceed with our bankruptcy. So big downside, they are still pursuing their bankruptcy, which could be for a number of reasons: to restructure bad debt, to potentially get themselves in a better position for a sale. Could be a lot of stuff.
They had a big problem. They released a firmware update that nuked like 2/3 of the devices. And so they had to replace.
That's why I stopped using it.
Yeah, they had to replace everybody's hardware, which was a huge cost to them. Financially, like I'm guessing it ate all their working capital.
I'm sure it did.
Update, literally
one developer made one mistake,
crushed their entire business.
Their system.
So they walked it back. They're not doing the $9.99 a month subscription, but I mean, we'll see what comes out of these bankruptcy proceedings. Again, could be a restructure of debt. It could be to get out of the debt to make themselves more attractive for a sale. It could be a lot of potential outcomes.
It's so interesting. I've seen these smart monitors kind of pop up from the very, very beginning. One of the earliest ones being Cocoon. I still have that camera. It's now a relic because it is now a defunct company. Really cool device, but it just doesn't matter how cool the tech is. Miku is amazing. Like in theory, like what it does. Like Andrew, you've got 2 of them, right?
Yep.
Like what it does is really good, but at the same time, like we've seen Owlet struggle, and now finally, I feel like Owlet is kind of gone up and gone down and right back up, and now they're FDA approved. So I see longevity with Owlet. Nana is thriving right now. Really, and they're expanding to different verticals. So like I see them. I don't know. Honestly, I don't know if Miku is going to be a thing in a year or two.
I don't know if the company will survive. I think the device will survive. And here's the reason I think they were told you cannot do the subscription model. Because everything I've seen, it's all in that device.
Yeah.
Yes. It's right. The lullabies are in the device. The two-way communications in the device. The 30 days of recording is on the device. Right. Yeah. So like, if you actually go look at, this is a weird technical thing, but if you go look at your network traffic, like my smartphone doesn't really leave my local network when it talks to my Miku device. It's only when like my mother wants to remote in and get it that they need a back-end server to make the connection and provide her those details, right? So I think if I had to guess, there's a ton of value. So we'll call it a swag. It's a educated guess, right? In the physical hardware, the math and technology behind the camera that they've done to do the breathing and the movement detection, right? And I think that piece is going to be of value to someone to purchase and reproduce that device.
Yep.
I think Miku failed, and the company will fail in the sense that they didn't have a proper financial background to keep making devices and then supporting them when things like, hey, you had a bad developer who nuked 2/3 of your devices, right?
It's just so sad, man.
Well, so it's something you can't buy insurance for. Right?
No, exactly.
Yeah. Like how do you buy corporate insurance for? I think a developer might make a mistake, and I need to be able to replace 2/3 of my sold products. Right.
Right.
That being said, I was paying the $9.99.
Oh, you were?
Oh, had it been approved, I would have just sign up, done, move on with my day.
I would have just switched. Well, because I freaking have all these freaking
devices
sitting around.
Of having a dozen monitors sitting around.
Well, I already did switch, but I mean, the point is, if while I still do like Miku, I mean, up to this point, even in the course, it was kind of one of my top recommended thing. That's gonna have to change because we don't like where it'll stand. Like I feel like they're gonna just sunset everything, and I don't know. It's very murky. So, if you are in the buying decision right now, my honest advice would probably be to pivot toward something like Nanit or Owlet, which are HSA eligible and all that. So FSA.
I don't think you can buy a Miku anymore. I think they pulled them.
Did they pull them already?
I think that was part of the bankruptcy documentation. If I read correctly, they're going to stop retail sales. And
well, there you go. If they haven't pulled my affiliate, everything that
let me see.
Probably should have.
Well, so, Amazon this real quick. See if you can still get one.
Well, if you can, I would avoid it because they probably will end support very, very soon.
Yeah, you can't get a Miku camera on Amazon right now.
Ooh, there so you go. Pull them down completely.
That's sad, man. It's just sad to witness like someone dying almost. Like you're watching it in real time.
Implosion.
Yeah,
I mean, it's just such an implosion of such a great product. But again, I mean, I think to Andrew Saunders' point, I think the value is still in the technology. So I think that they are ripe for a buyout by a larger organization. Like I could see like a Doral Brands like buying out their technology and saying instead of having to develop this in our own monitors, now we have the sensor fusion and we just package it nicely to fit in our
that would be ecosystem. So amazing because I mean,
if I was Nanit, I'd be targeting Miku right now.
I feel like Nanit
to get rid of the bundle thing. Right? Yeah. To get rid of that's why I didn't choose them, is because I had to wrap my kid in the swaddle. If they were smart
enough, they would do that. But I feel like,
Don't
Nanit,
insult Nanit.
just set in their ways. They're like, what? We've got. Well, that's the thing. Because it requires a wearable of fabrics, they can sell more stuff. More sleep sacks, more bands and all that stuff. So it's like buying sensor fusion technology would actually just hurt them because it would strip away the need for other products. Whereas Ben and I met with Safety First, who is under Doral Brands, and they are releasing a bunch of new stuff very soon, and it looks really good. Like we got a fun behind the curtain look at some things that we're not necessarily allowed to talk about, but I feel like if they could buy the sensor fusion technology off of Nanit, because the stuff is like radar. It was originally Miku's technology was originally used to be put up in drones. So that it could fly over battlefields and get an aerial view of what soldiers are alive and which ones are dead. Like to get real-time vitals of hundreds of soldiers at a time. It was military technology. That the guy is like, you know what? I could also use it to like check on my infant. So they put it into a camera, and they made it a proprietary technology. It was basically radar. It's amazing. I still don't know the ramifications of the EMFs that are going into the baby, which I believe are actually very, very, very minimal. Less than what your phone is putting into your thigh.
I tell you what, if we're all worried about EMFs, we would have known by now, because the federal government was broadcasting television wavelengths since television became a thing. Yeah, like the whole public broadcast radio wave system just got shut down in what? 2014. Is when they got rid of the standard definition TV, right? And when they did that, they shut off the radio waves. So we've been bombarded our whole lives, and we're not broken. We're just addicted to video games and social media.
We have Wi-Fi.
We all have ADHD, and well, that's not a byproduct of EMF radiation.
Listen, we went on a good tangent on Miku and all that. Sorry, that was very niche, guys. But we
took a hard left, but hopefully it helps some people make some decisions on.
Yeah, hopefully.
However,
ultimately that's the goal.
baby monitors do help with anxiety and fears.
There you
go. Which leads us to our next topic.
This is very true. I want to read this Discord comment.
Segue.
See, this is why Andrew's here, man. This is why you're good with the segues. Javier from Miami posted on Discord. Check this out. Hi, dads. Please let me know if this is not the right forum to discuss. But well, it is. It is.
By the
Javier.
way, perfect forum.
Perfect.
You did it right.
You did it right, Javier, man. Basically, I've been experiencing some really bad anxiety over the first month of my daughter's life. She's perfectly healthy and beautiful, but the weight of this change in my life is heavy and definitely impacting my day-to-day. I'm seeking therapy on my own to address this anxiety, which good on you, man, to be able to take that step to push for that. That's good for you, man. That's awesome. But my therapist encouraged me to reach out and make friends that have gone through this or are going through the same thing. So I'm here. Good for you, man. It's not the most active Discord in the world, but it's there.
I tell you
it
what,
exists and people
I
have
haven't
engaged.
seen a post get ignored on our Discord. I have never seen anyone post a, hey, I'm having this problem. Hey, I have a question. And no one responds. Might take a day. Might take 2 days.
I'm so grateful for the mods. I'm so grateful for the mods in the community because I'm not always in there, but they're dads that keep it going, that talk, that answer. So I'm really glad that something like this will go, well,
we heart you too.
There you go. So anyway, to continue his quote, he says, so I'm here. I really feel guilty over these feelings. I mean, I should be happy, right? And I was all throughout the pregnancy and the first week post-birth. But the 3 weeks after, I've been a wreck. Oh, excuse me, little burp there. And nobody else I know in real life seems to be experiencing fatherhood the same way. If this resonated with you, please reach out. I just want to make friends and maybe learn from someone else's experience to help me get past this bump on my road. Thanks in advance. So there's a lot of things in there, but basically it's something that I feel like is kind of a taboo topic that dads, don't really open up about because, we've got this, we figure it out. If I feel these things, I'm not a real man, it's just, I shouldn't have to, I'm not worried, it's easy, all that stuff. These are just these preconceived notions that are just frankly false, right? To have anxiety, postpartum anxiety, especially in those first months, those pivotal first months of your baby's life, that is actually way more commonplace than you may realize. And you're not alone.
I'll let you know when it ends. Dads. I'm 18 months in and still
moms and dads.
Yeah.
So you hear a lot about postpartum depression, which again, very serious topic, but one of the things that goes much less discussed is postpartum anxiety for sure. Again, in both mom and dad.
I mean, to Javier's point, if you go back on the Discord, I think I posted something like this before my first kid was born. No, it's on Facebook. Actually, I posted this long, I'm having fears. I'm a diatribe of what do I do? Right. Yeah. Because I was in the exact same place. Right. And still am. I mean, there are points when I walk upstairs, open my kid's door and go, okay, yep. The camera said she's breathing, but she's still there. She's still breathing. She's still moving. Yeah. Right. She's 18 months old. I should be done with the SIDS fear for an 18-month-old kid. Right. But I'm still up there opening the door going, okay. Yep. She's moving. Life is good. Right.
So I'm curious.
It won't end.
No, it doesn't. And it just continues. And then you get into the stage where your kids are constantly sick. And then it's just there's always some level of anxiety. For me, there's a lot of neatness, OCD, and just kids are constantly a mess. That kind of feels a little bit of anxiety for me, something that I'm still dealing with personally as well. So no, it's not uncommon. Okay. What you feel and the anxiety can come from a number of things. It could be the way that it didn't even have to be baby related. It could be marriage related and spouse related, just we're just not having sex anymore, or it could come from so many places. But I just, Javier, I'm really glad that you're doing your own therapy, that you're taking the time to do this. I hope that you're finding support and help and friends as well, whether that's through Discord or where have you. But it's really cool that you're stepping up to do that. When it comes to dealing with it, though, like dealing with the anxiety from, I don't know what the sources are, but dealing with it, Andrew, like for you dealt with it a little bit. It never goes away. I mean, how have you kind of like, it's not easy. It's a day-to-day battle thing. You know, sometimes some days are better than others. Like,
right.
For you, how have you kind of like, you know, gotten through it? You know, what are some examples of, you know, moments of anxiety for you?
Right. So I'm the crazy gadget dad, right? I've got baby monitors. I've got tons of toys for them. I mean, I have spent nights with the Miku stream up on my phone asleep, because I will wake up and I'll just look and be like, okay, she's still there. Right? Like it was, in a very real way, the Miku helped me get over some of that anxiety of like, is my kid safe in their crib alone without me? Right. Mm-hmm. I do a lot of research and that kind of thing. So a lot of the ways I get over my anxiety is to go see how realistic I'm being in my fears. And this, one of the triggers for me is it's a dumb trigger. I know it's a dumb trigger, but if I see a kid hurt or sick on a TV show, like if I see, you know, hey, random baby number 46 got kidnapped on the cop drama I'm watching, right? I go into full like, okay, what am I going to do? How am I going to stop that from happening? What are the systems I can do to, right? And it sounds stupid, but my kids have AirTag bracelets now.
Yeah,
it sounds dumb.
You mitigate the risk.
But it's one of those, it's sure, an AirTag's expensive or whatever, but I couldn't let that anxiety overwhelm me with the thought of like, how am I going to keep my kid from getting kidnapped? So I bought all the tool I could, short of embedding a GPS tag under their skin, to make sure that I knew where they were, right?
So to some extent, like that's something that you can control, right? That can be like, you know what, there's a concern in my head. I can find some sort of way to control that. But some things that are like, I guess, out of your control, right? Like your kid's just going to get sick, right? It's just like when it comes to that, how have you
I educate myself.
You just read?
I really do. I do the research. I know what the risks are. I know what the treatments are. I do and this is like when Prince Bougie was talking about his kid getting sick again, right? One of the first things I posted was hey, check this out. It wasn't even going to help him, but it was your immune system's based on your DNA. Look at this, right? Just having that knowledge back here alleviated some of the anxiety to know that, I mean, this is an amazing fact. There are 45,000 antibiotics built into the human genome. Built in, right?
It's wild.
It's not working for me right now, though.
What? Right, but you got to imagine,
has
like
7.
Think about all of the things that we get sick from, and it's at least a 1 in 45,000 chance,
right?
Right, and so there's things like that kind of, again, they help me with that weird, I can't control it anxiety, right? I don't know. I end up cooking and eating a lot of carbohydrates. Like I've been on a baking thing, right? Like I can control this. I can make this. It can happen. It's delicious. And then I always chuckle when I see it on the TV shows, like the people who go crazy and then their whole kitchen's filled with cookies. Yeah, that's been me once or twice in my life. I'm not gonna lie.
Dude, I really lean on my wife for like, I don't know. Like, she and I are like really an open book. So when I'm feeling anything, it's just like, hey babe, can I like be real? And it's just, what's up, what's up? And then we just let it out.
Have that support for each other.
And sometimes it's like uncomfortable truths or just like even just like dumb things. You're just like, I'm just struggling, man. I'm at a 20 right now. I think there's this one marriage therapist. She and her husband, they have like this code where they walk into the door.
Yeah, when they get home from work.
When they get home from work, and then they kind of like take each other's temperature, like out of 100, like where are you at? Like today I'm at a 20, babe. I can't. It's like, then don't cook dinner. Don't put the kids to bed. That's not you. You're at a 20. Right. You're at a 10. I got this because I'm at 80, right? So my 80 can really help your 20 out, you know? And I feel like Katie and I mean, we're not always like that. We're not always locked in step and in sync and all perfect. But like lately, especially when I've been sick, especially this past week, man, I'm like, babe, I'm literally at like almost like at a zero. Like I couldn't even muster the energy to like wash the dishes or anything. She's like, got it. I'm at 100. I'm good. And she played with the kids. She put them down, and I literally just curled up in a ball and just like went to sleep at like 6 p.m. And I don't know. But that I guess like beyond just anxiety and all that stuff, like really like taking your temperature with your spouse and really helping to like kind of be their crutch, or
take the time to communicate. Take the time to communicate. That's one of the biggest things that we found in our relationship after having kids is like, I think when you're a couple without kids, it's easier to let things go because there may be like another release valve, right? Like I can go to the gym, I can go on a run, I can go, enjoy time with my friends by myself as like my release. But once you have kids and you both are, responsible for the lives of another human being, a lot of those release valves kind of get left by the wayside, right? You might not have as many hobbies because you just simply don't have the time. Right. And so your communication is going to have to become part of that release process because you're also both struggling with things that you went through in your past, things that you're going through currently, things, again, anxiety, fear, stress, those are all born from somewhere. And if you can't reliably communicate those between each other, that's when you start running into issues where like, I discipline differently than you do, or I'm just in a bad mood and I'm like taking it out on everyone around me, but you don't necessarily know that that's born out of like, I am afraid of something. And maybe talking it through allows me to understand where it's actually coming from.
I mean, I can tell you that from my perspective, I have a lot of, if I present an anxiety to my wife, all of a sudden it becomes her anxiety. Right. And so there's a lot of that, like, yeah, she's great to talk to. We work it through. We both have solutions, but there are times when she's relying on me to be the strong one. And if I'm starting to break down, then it's just exacerbating the problem. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's one thing that I've struggled with and had to be aware of is in that sense, if you're talking about who's the emotional one and who's the logical one, right? I'm very much the logical one and she's very much the emotional one. And when I have to be emotional, I don't want to say I can't rely on her, but it's harder for her to take on that logical role. And she likes to be anxious with me. Right. And so that doesn't help. And I am missing things like, I mean, I used to spend 2 or 3 hours at the bar every week with the guys, right? Yeah. That's gone. That doesn't exist anymore. I literally, if I go to the bar for 2 or 3 hours with the guys, the wife is at home with 2 kids and it's a problem when I get back, right? Just from the sense of she's now exhausted or whatever she had planned for the evening didn't get done, or right. And they're under 2, like it's 2 kids under 2. It's not just hard. Two kids running around watching TV and playing video games while I'm gone for 2 hours, right? So for me, it was finding other places to relieve my anxiety or to calm down or relax that didn't involve me leaving and stopping being a parent, but still allowed me to not put my anxieties on her, right? Does that make sense?
No, it makes a lot of sense.
It makes a lot of sense.
So go ahead. Sorry.
Well, that's a big one. I end up in the car a lot. We do a lot of like 1 hour, hey kid, get in the car seat. We're going to go take a stroll. Hopefully you'll fall asleep and I'll listen to this audiobook.
That's actually a really relaxing thing that we'll do. Like all of us will, especially when we had just had one, we would just get into the car and just drive and just do what we call just like a Sunday drive.
Take a road trip.
And we would just like drive and just like go to like new communities that are like doing like new builds, new constructions. And we just like drive around and then kind of just like one of us will like hop out and like, hey, that one's under construction. You want to go see what the kitchen finishes are? That while the baby just like babbles in the back or just sleeps, and we can just like
You judge other people's homes. That's what you're doing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we do that.
Oh, exactly.
Drive around and judge other people's houses.
That was just.
It's so weird the things you do to relax. Like once you become a grown up.
Yeah.
Like
right.
like grocery shopping like late at night if you have the ability to.
God.
Like an empty grocery store is one of the most relaxing things in the world.
Dude,
you show up at the grocery store at midnight.
It's actually
and you
really
leave
nice.
with 2 carts, and you're like, "What? I just needed eggs." How did this happen?
I bought all the things.
It's either something super nice and relaxing, or something like super criminal. It's going to end up on TikTok. That's like this happened at Walmart at 2 a.m.
Oh,
So no, but like indulging in some of those things that make you relax. You know, whether that's together with your spouse and doing a drive, or an hour of gaming, or streaming on Twitch, or I don't know, whatever. Maintaining those outlets is actually really good, really healthy. If you're in the course, there is a full thing there's a full module where we talk about postpartum mental health with Dr. Singley from the Center of Men's Excellence. That's in the course, in the Father Figured course. If you haven't watched that is a really, 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 really good video it was like a 40-minute video interview that I did like with Dr. Singley. And he just discusses it, that like you need to prioritize your happiness, it's really important. Rereading Javier's comment, he says, I feel really guilty over having these feelings of the anxiety. We talked about it early on, but like, don't like, it's hard. It's easy for us to just like, don't feel guilty, but like really feeling guilt over that, there's, your feelings are valid.
You shouldn't feel guilty for things that are perfectly normal. And I think we need to normalize the idea that dads and men feel feelings. Like we have anxieties, we have fears, we have desires, and we have all these things. We are multifaceted.
Yeah.
And so, to not acknowledge those, to say, I'm okay. I'm fine. Like, I think it does a disservice to us and to our kids, especially our sons. So the idea that like, should I be an example for my son where I don't express my emotions in a healthy way, right? So that's the thing that kind of, those are the things that I get afraid of, or like
in the healthy way,
right? Yes,
right.
So it's
big
confronting the things that you went through, are going through, do not have the tools to deal with. So, talking about therapy, finding breathing techniques, meditation, exercise, whatever it is that works for you, finding a way to manage those emotions so that when you do get into a stressful situation or you do confront those anxieties, you have the tools to be able to deal with them. I mean, at the end of the day, you can't draw water from an empty bucket, right? Like you have to be able to fill yourself emotionally. You have to be able to fulfill yourself emotionally to be able to handle those stressful situations. And so like I've talked about on previous podcasts, like some of the things that I do for myself are now the things that I do with my son, like learning how to, use your breath to control your sort of anxious state, right? So like if I'm feeling really anxious, or I'm feeling angry, or I feel like out of control of my emotions, being able to recognize that and stop and just pause and take a couple of really deep breaths, recenter my mind and kind of reframe the situation to say, okay, how did I get here? What is this, something that's within my control? Can I influence this at all? And if the answer is no, then me being upset about it or anxious about it doesn't help anyone. It doesn't make the situation any better because it's completely out of my control. I have no control.
Yeah.
And so at that point, I have two choices. I can either continue to be anxious and not help anyone, or I can find a way to reframe it so that I can actually be, supportive, helpful, whatever it is. But we do that with our son all the time. If he's having like big feelings, big emotions, we'll stop and I'll either pick him up and hold him, or I'll stop with him. I'll get down on one knee and I'll be like, okay, it sounds like, we're having a big issue here. Take a deep breath with me. and I'll just have him sit there and just breathe a couple of times and go, okay, let's try and figure this out. Like, what is going on? Tell me what's happening. And then that's where we restart the conversation.
And that's, and like you said, you have that fork in the road where you have a choice to make. And when you choose that route to like reframe and say like this, no, we are going to go this direction instead. That begins with your deep breath. And then from there, you kind of think through and try to kind of center yourself. Yeah.
There's a great book on this entire topic by Mark Manson that I absolutely love. It's called The Subtle Art of Not Giving Up.
Oh, yeah.
And as bad as the title is, right?
Yeah.
It really
it's a good title.
Helps if you read it and learn and you get a few skills in how to deal with I have no control over this. Why am I wasting my time, effort, and energy on this thing I don't have control over?
Yeah.
And I think like my big advice to Javier was, I'm feeling guilty. Cool. Feel guilty.
Yeah.
Feel guilty. Yeah. It's fine. There's nothing wrong with that feeling. What you can't do is get stuck in that feeling. Right. Take a half an hour, feel guilty, and then figure out what you can do next. Right? What is the next step? It's there's nothing wrong. I feel guilty all the time about, spending an hour or so on a podcast when my wife's upstairs with 2 kids, right? But this is something that helps me. It's an outlet. It provides to a greater community, right? And so I think there's finding the right tools to step out of that anxiety and the guilt is huge. And when Ben was talking, my immediate one was, look, if you have trouble with this, you want to practice it, do it in traffic. Go park yourself in 5 p.m. in interstate traffic, right? With somewhere to be. Because you're going to get upset. You're going to be frustrated. Nobody's moving. But guess what? You have no control. So all you're doing is making yourself anxious and upset.
That's a good way to think about it.
It doesn't make the situation any better.
It doesn't make the situation any better. You just get hostile, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
Put your cruise control on slow. Move yourself to the right lane and hang out until it ends. Right? And because it doesn't help. You're not going to do any. Sorry, what am I trying to say? If you can look at all the guilty, the frustrating, the anxiety as if stuck in traffic, I think you start to reframe those things and go, oh, okay, I need to take a step back, take a moment, right? And we were all taught, you're angry, count to 10, take breaths, right?
Yeah, right.
That's the very basics of everything Ben was talking about, and it doesn't have to just be anger. It works with guilt. It works with anxiety. It works with sadness. It works with all kinds of stuff. Anyway.
Javier, and there's one line though that stuck out to me. He goes, I mean, I should be happy, right? With like the postpartum stage. And, and in your head, it's like, well, yeah, you should be happy. Of course. But then at the same time, I think back to me and I'm like, I wasn't always happy though. In those early months, I was like really frustrated. So it's like, you should be happy, sure, but that's not the only emotion that you should be or will be feeling in the early months.
This idea that like there's a should be, right?
No,
right.
There isn't a should be.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
Maybe you're going. Yeah, you can be happy, but again, you are a human being experiencing a human experience and experiencing a range of emotions that come with it.
Yeah.
You are or will experience a drastic change in your sleep, in your lifestyle, in your responsibilities. And here's the thing.
Your paycheck.
Right. Your paycheck. All your money's going to go somewhere else. Yeah. Here's the thing. Like, you are now responsible for another human being. And that is an awesome responsibility. But you feel the weight of that. And if you don't, then I would question your motivation as a parent.
Yeah.
Because the people that I know who truly, truly care about their kids and are some of the best people I have ever met have the same anxieties, the same fears, or anxiety and fear over, am I enough? Am I doing enough? Did I yell at my kid too much? Did I, should I have raised my voice there? Was that really a big deal? And so as parents, I feel like good parents are consistently worried about whether or not they're doing the right thing and what the long-term impact of that is. I mean, I had this conversation with my wife last night, like full transparency. I came down after, talking to my son, and he just had like a really rough night, didn't take a nap that day. Like, we just had a tough night. And I got done with him, and I walked downstairs, and I just like, my wife was washing dishes, and I was just like, can you just give me a hug? Like, I just need a hug. She gave me a hug, and I sat down. I was just sort of talking with her, and I just looked at her, and I was like, I am so afraid that I am not enough, that in some way I will not be enough for my kids to get them to the place that I want them to be, right? To get them beyond my capabilities, to get them beyond my, emotional intelligence, whatever it is, to be better people than I am. And so like, that's I think a really real fear when I talk to other dads who like truly care about the job that they're doing, is like, that's a regular thing, is to think like, am I doing enough? Am I enough? Am I earning enough? Am I, you carry this weight of raising these tiny humans on your shoulders. And it is an awesome responsibility, but at the end of the day, like, think back to your childhood and, whether it was good or bad, how many of those details do you remember? So much of that is you remember how people made you feel. You remember the time that people dedicated to you and the experiences you had with them. And that's what I want to give my kids, is that time, the experience, the emotion, so that when they grow up and they talk about me, that they say that they want to make their kids feel the way that their dad made them feel, like safe, secure, emotionally stable, all of those things. But that comes down to me working on myself to know that like I'm doing the best I can in the moment. And I think for all dads, give yourself some grace and forgiveness. Like, none of us are perfect. We're going to screw it up a whole bunch, but hopefully we get it right more often than not, because we are consistently trying to be better.
Guys, I hope that this episode has really helped you out, specifically Javier. I hope our conversation has kind of helped, and we fully intend to bring in some more questions and topics from our Discord, as well as YouTube comments and all that to answer on this podcast moving forward. Looking at our Spotify, we always ask for like the ratings and stuff like that. We're at a 4.7 off of 40 reviews. Thank you. Can we bump it to 4.8? Let's just see. Can we get a few more? I was like, we asked for the reviews, but like, no one's actually reviewing this. No, a bunch of you guys actually reviewed it. So like, thank you so much. We appreciate
than most Uber drivers I've ever had.
Yeah.
I like how 4.8, you're getting a solid A, and you're like, can I have an A+, please?
I would like that. That would be really nice. So
I'm sitting here going, you should be shooting for like 3 out of 5. That's 60%, like dead center average. Yeah,
yo,
you are great, man.
On
C's
Spotify.
Get threes,
That's
baby.
pretty good. I need to check the Apple ratings, but these reviews, these ratings,
you
help
are 5
us.
out of 5 on Apple. Okay, you have a solid 5.0
really?
on Apple. Yes, I just
looked.
looked.
We have a 5 out of 5, man.
Okay,
but this is this is great. It really helps. It helps people find this podcast in the parenting category. So we'd appreciate any sort of reviews, and if you guys write reviews, I think we should start reading like a review if they come in. Like, if people write.
I've got one I can read right now.
Really?
Yeah, the title is Best Podcast Ever, March 24th, 2023. The subject says it all.
Okay.
By Andrew Saunders. 5 out of 5 stars.
Perfect. There you go. There. Okay. Look at that. Look at that. You got me hyped up for a second. I was like, hey. Oh man. Well, this has been really cool to be able to chat about this, and we hope to continue some great conversations with you guys, whether it's through here on Spotify, on Apple, on YouTube, or even on Discord, where you can actually chat with us in person. Yeah. So thank you guys, and we'll catch you on the next episode. Peace.